She is coming. Yeah.
Where is she?
Did everybody? All right, everyone ready?
And we'll start.
Mr. Passage, you do have a microphone.
Mhm.
Mrs. Fuller, would you like to turn your microphone on?
Should
probably
be
share
called
like
the next-
one of
saving the battery.
There you go.
these.
It's all good.
Fiscally responsible. There you are.
All right. I call this meeting of the Lakota Local School District Facilities Committee meeting December 5th, 2022 to order. Mr. Zink, would you call the roll?
Mr. D.
Yeah.
Ms. Bodie. Ms. Casper.
Here.
Ms. O'Connor.
Here.
Ms. Schaefer.
Here.
Ms. Fuller.
Here.
Mr. Hatfield. Here. Mr. Miller. Here. Mr. Sarge. Here. Mr. Zink here.
Board will move to number 2, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Please call the roll.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Ms. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. D.
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor.
Yes.
Ms. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Sarge.
Yes.
Mr. Zink, yes.
Thank you. Number 3, approve the minutes of the October 3rd, 2022, our last Facilities Committee meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer.
Second that.
Thank you, Mr. D. Please call the roll.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. D.
Yes.
Ms. Casper.
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor.
Yes.
Ms. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Sarge.
Yes.
Mr. Zink, yes.
Thank you. We'll move to number 4. We'll be discussing the operational savings on options 3 and 4. Mr. Miller?
All right, turn it over to Mr. Sarge.
Okay. Today we're going to talk about, we met as a team with HR, Assistant Superintendent, Treasurer, myself, started looking at the different options, the configurations, and what we think we could achieve through personnel savings with the various options. We had a brief discussion at our last meeting with the custodians and child nutrition folks, give an idea about that was. So we broke it down and went down full list of everybody and try to give our best, not for lack of a better term, guess about what we think it could look like as far as the staffing models for the different options. So you'll see once we go through the PowerPoints here, they're grouped in different sections, but for the most part, these on the options that we're considering, the K-6 core classroom teachers, K-12 special education teachers, the supports, ELL teachers and reading specialists. Regardless of the option, we didn't see any changes in those because those are all student teacher ratios that are outlined in either board policy or caseloads as outlined in special education. So it really is student driven based on our population. So no matter what our option is, we really didn't see any reductions in those because they're all ratio based. So as we started to go through, we started looking at administrators. So on each slide, you'll see a current, which is our current configuration, option 3 and option 4. And we went through and sort of gave our idea of what we thought it would look like from a building administrator piece. We're just, again, focusing on the buildings and that anything at central office or anything like that, or a service center. So these are our impacts that you see at the building level. So we currently have 52 administrators at the building level, all the way from pre-K to high school. And then option 3, the different configurations and how we thought it would be set up. We thought we could drop down to 50. And for option 4, we could drop down to 46. You'll see on the notes on the side there, sort of gives sort of a rationale on why we came up with those numbers and how we came up with those numbers.
Something else to note on these assumptions when we put these together is we, based on the fringe side, we just went with a standardized $10,000 estimate for healthcare, just because it's going to be up, down,
Right.
somewhere close to being in the middle for an average.
So based off a reduction at option 3 of 2 administrators of $297,000 for salaries and benefits. Again, that's just a general range about what range those administrators could be in. And option 4 with a reduction of 6, you saw over $1 million worth of operational savings with the new building configuration in option 4. Any questions about the administrator piece and how we set that up?
My only question would be, I guess we're not there yet. This is still, we're down to what? We were at 30,000 feet. Now we're at what? 15? But would this just be through like,
7.
would this just be through attrition or I mean,
The
Are we
common,
late?
common theme as we went through this, when we sat down and worked through it, was always based around attrition.
Okay.
We did
Right.
not look at a RIF type
reducing
situation.
our staff?
Right.
Okay.
And that's the benefit, I think, of planning this far out.
Right.
Is there any questions about the administrators? Okay. So the next group that we potentially could see some impact are what we call the 712 core subject teachers. So your language arts, math, science, and social studies. So we looked at the 2 different options. Option 3, again, it has the fifth high school, which is something we need to look at. That was unique. So in option 3, because we have an additional building at the junior high level, we saw some upticks in people there. In option 4, since we were consolidated, you saw a pretty sizable drop in the number of teachers that would be wouldn't have to drive back and forth and share between the freshman building and the high school building. So we felt like there's a pretty decent size of natural reduction that you could have by consolidating into one high school instead of having a standalone freshman building.
Right.
Any questions about the 712 core subject areas?
I guess I don't know if this is the place because this is more of a financial discussion, but don't we also think this will allow for more consistency in class size from student population to student population? Because you're going to have bigger student populations in the same place. Okay. Matt said yes, since his mic's off over
Yes.
there.
Yes.
So the next area we looked at our K-5 specials area right now. Our K-6, and when we move, it would be a K-5 options. So when we looked at option 3 and 4, we currently have 43. The way it's set up at the junior schools, where
Sorry.
you need a.
Do we have
Can I have
yours?
your copy, Craig?
You have a copy.
Mr. Zink, we need one more of these copies, please.
Yep.
Yeah, he has
Craig's
it.
got one. Craig's got it. Bring it around. Thank you.
So we have a special setup right now. We have 14 K-6 buildings, and they're split. So they do a rotation special where you have art, music, PE 1, then you'll have tech, STEAM, and SEL the other. So they rotate by quarters on when they have those specials. So, and we have the unique one right now because Cherokee is so large. In order to fit it in their daily schedule, what we call a super unified arts person that creates that extra body that's needed to help accommodate the size of that building. So with that, we go to option 3. We thought you could see a reduction down to 36, and option 4, just based on the size of the buildings and what it would be, basically we get rid of the unified arts person at that level, but we still continue that model as what we assumed that they would split the specials like we currently do right now. And that could be a broader discussion at some point if that's the model that we want to use going forward, but that's what we assumed for this exercise. So 712 elective teachers. This was based off the art, music, world languages, business technologies. So when we looked at option 3 and option 4, you could see some benefits with the consolidated building in option 3, having some opportunities to have that shared campus, and option 4 having the larger schools, the junior highs consolidated, or the middle schools and the high schools. There's opportunities to improve efficiencies as far as the ability for teachers to pick up and do an extra section or don't have to travel between buildings and such. So, and another thing we can look at here too is another discussion down the road is what do we call it, Adam? Opportunities for if we wanted to repurpose and use like world languages at the junior high level, you know, could we do that and not have a larger reduction? So we call those
Value adds.
value adds.
Yeah,
is what we-
different value adds that we could have by some of these economies of scale.
So we did not consider any of those things. Those things to be, as we go get deeper into this, decide if that's something we want to do from a curriculum standpoint that, you know, maybe we don't want to take as deep of a possibility of reductions and keep some of those and add opportunities for our students. Again, here for K-6 other teacher supports, you know, gifted ELL, innovation specialist. We did see opportunities for improvements in both option 3 and option 4, with option 3 having more opportunities for improvement compared to option 4. So if you look at the options, some of the buildings, elementary buildings were a little bit larger. So those would get an extra support because they're around 1,400 kids and the other ones are around 600 or 700 kids. So we adjusted for the size of those buildings by adding additional supports. 712, again, we have our ratios of what we thought we would need at each building. So we have fewer buildings, you're gonna have fewer staff. So you still may have 2 per building, but you may have, since you have fewer buildings, you're gonna have fewer staff in these other support areas. And option 3 would actually be an increase of 1 FTE based on the structure of that option. We didn't add that back in. We just said it'd be 0 savings because we're not really reducing anything. We would actually add 1 FTE. And support staff. Again, we talked about the custodians and child nutrition last time. Those are the same numbers they received, but we went ahead and looked at the secretarial, instructional aides, clinic assistants, system support techs, and nurses. Some of them we want to see a change because it's based on ratios for example, system support techs. We still have as many devices out there we need to support.
Right.
And just because fewer buildings doesn't mean we get fewer devices. So we didn't see reductions in those areas. And again, instructional aides are usually based on ratios that we need support for. So we assume that since we had roughly the same student population, we didn't make any adjustments for that. But you will see adjustments again based on the fewer number of buildings is where you would capture most of your savings by just reducing the number of buildings and consolidating staff. So an estimated summary, again, this is a snapshot in time. Our best guess is we currently around have 1,700 FTEs for administrators, certified and classified staff. Option 2 would reduce down to 1,656, and option 4 could reduce down to 1,624, with an estimated annual savings of 4.3 million or 7.2 million. Again, none of these would be realized until you fully exercise your plan and have these structures all set up. So the potential savings that will go back towards the general fund. Did I miss anything, Adam?
No, I think you did a pretty good job of capturing all the assumptions that we'd went through when working on this. Another thing as mentioned earlier with Ms. Bodie just arriving, something to note is this did not assume any RIF situation. This was all an attrition. So because of that, you look at a kind of the reduction would be of a higher end staff member because they would be possibly retiring, something of that nature, and then replacing with that normal column 2, step 5 average that we've been using pretty consistently. Benefits was assumed to be 10,000 just as a healthcare. If it's family, it's more. If it's single, it's less. So that's just a standard number we went with.
Okay, thank you.
But any questions about the estimated personnel savings for the various options?
Thank you for that in-depth analysis and going into all that detail on all those pieces. I think it sounds like you had a good conversation about how that
Yeah,
would all
I
work
had a
out.
lot of help because, understanding staffing for academics isn't my bailiwick, but between Rob and Rob, they were really good at looking at this.
And then as we worked through it, it was like every time we turn around, it was, oh, wait, what about this? Or what about that? Or how about this idea or that idea? And a lot of the things, like we talked a lot about, a lot of the value also, I mean, these are just the savings numbers, but a lot of the values could come from additional offerings or,
Right.
repurposing some of the same programs we've got in just a little bit different way.
I like the thought of the repurposing and taking a look at what we're doing and is this the best way to be doing it? Are we doing the most for our students? So we've been looking for this for a while, so thank you very much for all the work that went into this information.
Sure.
Board questions? Other information that's needed? As a reminder, we plan a vote on which plan we're going with, not necessarily a price tag for our next meeting, which will be coming up on December 12th. So are there other pieces of information we feel like we need before that meeting? Mrs. Bodie, give you a chance to catch up for a moment. Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask?
No, excuse me, sorry. No, I do not. I looked at this email, so thank you for sending that email out.
Sure.
As of right now, I do not have any questions, but if I do, I'm sure I can communicate through email.
Yeah, of course.
It was nice to have that ahead of time. That email to be able to.
Again, this is a document that we provided before at previous meetings. Just to give you an idea from the 10 buildings that are scheduled to go away as part of the plan, what we spend are opportunities for cost avoidance. So the ones highlighted in yellow would be annual operating costs, either for utilities or maintenance or general capital improvements. So you will see a reduction in those, but we didn't add back. Those would be gross reductions. We didn't add back a net. If we brought back other buildings into it, what could that net number be? Because there would be, if you're going to go with option 4, to say example, those 2 new high schools would be large buildings. So you're probably not going to save all that, but you could have some reduction in utilities over that time frame as well. Again, the ones in the orange color are more geared towards our permanent improvement fund and would be cost avoidance. Those are things that are scheduled as far as our roofs, HVACs, and parking lots that we know are on the docket to be done. And actually, Craig just went through today and we're updating our planning numbers going forward, and they're not getting any better, to be honest.
No, Mr. Broussard is correct. Typically in December is when you start planning for next year's permanent improvements. So in your larger scale programs that have to be bid on and suspect going through review and assessments. So that's where we are going through our the roofing sections of where we are with the buildings that we know would no matter what option we choose, we still will have those buildings for a few years. And those are the most detrimental buildings that need repair, replacement, or whatever needs. So you're trying to judge and weigh what options basically to put what kind of Band-Aid on, depending upon where we move forward. And that's where we are, because out of my 7 priority buildings, I think 4 of those are on that list. So we're just trying to figure out what is the best option. We're doing our assessments now, coming up within, I think, next week with parking lot and our 20-year plan that we'll be in year 12 or year 8 with 12 more years. So those are assessments that we're working on as we speak, and those numbers are fluctuating with inflation and so forth and so on. So that information can be forthcoming with Mr. Broussard and I sharing that when we get it. It's hard to estimate now, but we know in close proximity, a margin of error where we would be. So.
Do we have any buildings right now currently that are having leaks that like we're having to put buckets out when it rains? I know that was an issue.
Well, that is true. I'd like to, my triplets of Woodland, Shawnee, and Heritage are always a problem because the aesthetics in those turrets are very pretty, But as time goes, they start to wear. So we've had some leaks. I think last week we had a pipe burst, and thank goodness we found it at 6:30 at Heritage because it was flooding out into the hallway. So those things are going to happen when you get into the climate and the temperature change. But roofing, it's going to rain, it's going to be weather, you're going to have freeze, thaw, you name it. So it's going to be forthcoming all winter. So we're trying to even have a short fix solution even to get through the winter on some of those buildings.
Again, just from a transportation piece, we took a high level overview of this. We still need to do more work because the way it's set up is I'm going through, and if you're familiar with it, our district is broken down into a bunch of different planning blocks. So we're trying to go through and develop our new attendance zones on the various options of what they could look like. And you really can't route until you know those zones and how many kids are in each zone. So we're going through that, but just a high level estimate that they looked at just based on what we know so far is option 3. They think we're going to need at least 30 shuttles running on a consistent basis today to accommodate that options piece. So with that, if they're running from first bell to last bell, it's almost like a full day's run. So it's almost like adding 30 routes to your schedule. So we think there may be some reduction in efficiencies, but we weren't comfortable enough to say there'd be any kind of cost savings with the additional routes for the shuttles, but we're still taking a deeper dive into that. They did look at option 4, felt they could get comfortably 6 to 8 routes for K-8 students out. So that's another 420 to 560,000 a year that we could potentially reduce. Again, more analysis is needed, and we really need to look at, and that does, we'd even look at 9-12. We just assume that we're going to keep 9th grade like it is right now. So again, that's further discussion if we're just going to do 9th grade. If it's then does that make sense or not? So,
But that is an assumption that's in here
yeah, that would maintain a current level of service, which is 9th
for
grade.
freshmen.
Yes.
Isn't there somebody in Butler County that, is it Fairfield, that only buses 9th and 10th graders, even though
I think it's Fairfield.
they're all in the same building?
Yeah, I think Fairfield has a standalone freshman building. Then they
10th graders to the main campus, but just the 10th graders.
right.
How that works.
Well, they would still have to transport to private schools 9 through 12, 9 through 10,
Right,
Correct.
but it's by grade level.
by grade level, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, well, you got to offer like services. So
Right.
whatever
Right.
services we offer at Lakota for students that attend Lakota, you have to offer
have to
like
do too,
service for
yeah.
non-pubs.
Which
same.
again begs the question, if you have a 9th and a 10th grader at Moeller, or 9th and 11th grader, we're only going to be able to take one if we do, that's how we do ours. So
Right.
that'd be confusing.
Again, we'll continue to deep dive into this and look at this. There could be additional savings or opportunities here with that, but that was the operational areas that I had for you today.
Mr. Zink, anything to add?
No, I don't think I have anything to add at this time. Mr. Sarge, and like he had mentioned, the rest of the team that chipped in on this, you know, took a lot of work and effort, but thanks for all that.
Mr. Hatfield, Mrs. Fuller, any comments? Mr. Miller?
Chris and Craig, thanks for all the work on this and putting it together. I think just as a reminder, it's a snapshot. It's almost like the 5-year forecast, right? The best guess right now, and I'm sure it'll change a lot. So, but thanks.
Board comments, questions, anything, Mrs. Bodie?
Since we've, excuse me, been discussing this, master's facilities plan with the community, has anyone expressed interest on purchasing some of the land and using the buildings that you know of? I just was wondering if anyone has expressed any interest in that as of right now.
Yeah, we haven't identified, well, we've identified which buildings would go away as part of the plan, but we haven't identified.
Right,
exactly
right. Nothing has popped up or any, no conversations.
So there's no calculations in here for land sales. Anything else?
Thank you for your deep dive.
Really?
So as I look at this, in addition to the staff savings, which you quantified at 4 million and 7 million for the two plans, it looks like you're gonna have, based on the utilities capital cost, and as you mentioned, the utilities could potentially go up, but it looks like it's safe to assume that that would be at least $2 million in savings. And then if you look at the capital improvements that you wouldn't have to do, again, that's out to 2030, but it looks like that could have a PI impact of approximately $2 million a year. So are you comfortable that between transportation and building savings, and then that other piece, that would be about, again, 2 million on the operation side and 2 million on the PI side? Okay,
Which would help our PI, correct?
Yes.
because aren't we right now stretched and having to use some of the general fund money for some things that could potentially be diverted to PI if we had it?
We are, but we've actually been lucky with the ESSER funds. We were able to kind of preserve a little bit of the PI fund to stretch that a little further with those as well.
Okay.
But he did
That's
talk
helped.
in our forecast that was something we'd have to consider in the future for that reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure
this,
that,
this project can definitely have a major impact on more areas than just our general fund.
so potentially $8 to $11 million in annual savings to the district
Yeah.
after the capital improvement.
Other comments? Is it?
Okay. I just want to say thank you for putting all this together, because I know when we requested that, it was like giving you more work to do, but it makes it easier when you get all the estimates, makes the decision making easier. So thank you for putting that together.
I appreciate seeing, especially the personnel savings is even more of a difference than I anticipated it
Mhm.
would be, actually. And again, as was mentioned before, I don't think that you were here at that point, but talking about attrition being the way that we would reduce staff, not a reduction in force. And it will take place over a period of several years. And something that as we plan now, we can take into account. Thank you all for the work. Have been waiting a while to see this, so it's really, really helpful. I'm glad we have it before we need to make that decision next week. Are there any other comments or questions? And obviously, if one board member requests information, if you'll make sure that all board members get it, so we're all equally informed. Julie?
Will this be added to the information that we currently have on the website, or if it may already be there, Betsy?
No, this update is not on the website, but it will be added this week, and then I'll recap the meeting as well and post that.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, anything else? Okay. Well, this has been a long time in the making. I think we're all looking forward to moving forward with a decision of some sort so that we can get really into the hard planning that needs to happen. So any further comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, with this summary, I know we have engaged the community all along. With this summary, is there going to be an opportunity for the community to see this?
Yep, that you just.
Oh, that's what-
Yeah,
that's-
so
okay.
I'll post it on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Get to
Yeah,
see too.
gotcha.
And Mrs. Fuller, I didn't warn you ahead of time, but maybe just as a recap for the feedback that we received through the community surveys and all that with where that landed on the options. Could you recap that?
Sure. I think the bulk of the community members who weighed in preferred 3 and 4, which is how you have kind of steered as well. We had a thought exchange out there from June until end of October. And presented it at all of our community meetings and publicized it. Not a huge turnout, which we kind of expected, but I did share the links with all of you to recap, and it is also available for our community to see how it weighed out as well on the master facilities website.
Was there a strong preference between either 3 or 4?
No, I think there was more just the concept of the shared building for 912. What exactly would that look like?
So more questions around it as opposed, how would it be utilized?
Yeah, but as far as the grade band configurations, they were preferred.
All right. If there's nothing else, board, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll take Kelly as a first and Julie as a second. Without further discussion, Mr. Zink, would you call the roll?
Ms. Casper,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Adi,
Yes.
Ms. Bodie,
Yes.
Ms. O'Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Sarge, Mr. Zink, yes.
Thanks, everybody.